Greetings, friends! Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we look at movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my Druid magic, cursed by the Thorn, baby daddy, and teleporting shape and co-host,
Alex Dandino. All true.
All right, guys, if you're here joining us on the show, we hope you're having a great time like always. If that's the case, please take 1 second right now while you're listening. Leave us a rating and review wherever you find the show, especially if that happens to be the Apple Podcast app. These things help us find more people to haul into the old Alchemist lab here, right, where we subject them to my movie theories and, nonsense. If you want to see our faces, along with hear our voices, you can find this show in a video format and many other things that we've been working on our YouTube channel, The Nerd Alchemist. We are on every social media platform you're on and would love to connect with you. That's a good way to reach out to us. You can also email the show. And we always love to hear your ideas for movies we should talk about, themes, double features, guests, new stuff, old stuff, whatever you want. We want to talk about it, man. So reach out to us with either of those, any of those methods. We're everywhere. We're easy to get a hold of. All right, guys. This month, October, we entered the abyss, the never-ending abyss of horror films. We are in kind of the abyss of the Halloween franchise today as we dive into The Curse of Michael Myers. Damn it. There is a lot about this movie that I love. I feel like if they wrote the tale of The Curse of Michael Myers and Halloween H2O, it's kind of the same tale, right? Which is great conceit, thing I really want to talk about and add to the Halloween mythos. And then they say, fuck that, let's do the exact same things. We're afraid to go too far, man. This one especially, right? Because what I look for in sequels, once we're this fucking deep into the movies, right? I get Michael Myers. I get the slasher. Give me something new, some way to recontextualize, to examine some new layer of mythology that I can take with me to all the other movies, right? It lets me rewatch the old ones in a different light. It lets me watch the new ones with more appreciation, right? I love that. This movie had it. Diving all the way into the fucking Druid magic is exactly what I wanted. And I would argue the first 20 minutes of this movie are fucking outstanding. Alex, what were your thoughts? And again, let's focus on more of the things we like about The Curse of Michael Myers. And then maybe at the end we'll start throwing haymakers.
I mean, to me, the thing that makes The Curse of Michael Myers unique and interesting is, for one, it's Donald Pleasance's last turn as Dr. Loomis before he died, which is very sad. Rest in peace, of course. The introduction of one Paul Stephen Rudd. That's pretty fun. But
also, the only Paul Rudd that none of our wives would want to fuck. The least fuckable Paul Rudd ever on film.
Yes. The least fuckable Paul Rudd in film history. Thank God. It's a rare sighting, but sometimes you just get lucky.
True.
This actually came out right before Clueless. I will say this is and I agree with you, like the Druid stuff and this happens on Front Street, man. Like it's top of the movie. If you turn this on after the credits, you would not know this was a Halloween movie of the Halloween franchise until 20 minutes in with that first fucking Michael Myers kill. Until then,
no,
it is not revealed
the nurse gets killed
at all.
The nurse gets killed like before the 5-minute mark. Because they do the classic Michael Myers emerges from the dark and puts the nurse's head through the spike.
No, I remember that. I thought that happened 20 minutes into the movie. Wow, okay. I was that engrossed. I was like,
yeah, you were like, okay. You hit a druidic time jump. But yeah, so like 5 minutes in. But
yeah,
Michael probably has like 3 big visuals of this opening. But it's a lot of druids and then the conclusion of the Jamie story, which we had just done in Halloween 4 and 5. And again, they found such a And God, I hate to fucking use the probably overused and abused adjective of poetic for Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. But I thought there was something really cool about Jamie fighting out with her baby and her being caught in this thing, right? She, at one point, looked like she was supposed to be the new Michael, and then she escaped and fought back. They disappeared. Now she has a kid, which, by the way, they kind of creepily tell us that Michael, the baby daddy. Did you get that? Like, Michael definitely is the baby daddy, right?
There's a hint of that, yes. It made me a little uncomfortable, if I'm being honest, because...
Yeah, because we just spent 2 movies watching him chase around 10-year-old version of Jamie. The thought of what happened betwixt those 2 movies, not cool. That's the kind of real-life horror that Halloween rarely ever gets to.
Yeah. I mean, but I really like the Druid stuff.
Yeah. So
Everything
elaborate on that.
involving-
What about the Druid stuff was working for you so well?
Well, it's like what you said at the beginning of the top of the show. It's like what you said at the top of the show. I do like sequels need to add to the mythos. Sequels need to add something while honoring the past in some ways, and I think that's what The Curse of Michael Myers does better than a lot of the other sequels to this, which is honoring the past by bringing Donald Pleasance back and also giving him like the best send off you could give Dr. Loomis. I think probably one of the better send offs you could give a poor long labored character who literally is sitting in a cabin outside Haddonfield now, just hiding from the world, saying, "I'm retired, but I'll come back for evil."
So, but see,
then
but wait, hold on. I got to slam the brakes on this Unabomber depiction of Pleasance. This is not he is not the Unabomber.
I love it.
He is essentially the could he be Santa from Miracle on 34th Street, right? We just hear him click clacking. I'm writing a manuscript. He hears his name on the radio and whips around, and with a little twinkle in his eyes and his little cherubic face, he's just like, "I'm not dead. I'm just very much retired." And I was like, "Yeah!" Like from the cheap seats cheering, like, yeah. He's monologuing to his radio. He still has.
I'm fine with that.
He still has
I want that shit.
Yeah, it was great.
I'm not saying he's like Unabombering. I'm saying he's just aloof until he's needed. Like he's like Batman at the beginning of Batman Returns. The like Michael signal flashes and it's the same thing. So, but the stuff that really works for me. Okay, now I really want that movie. Like I want Loomis Returns.
Yeah, fuck, dude. I think we all do, man. I think we all do.
The thing that I liked the most, though, about the Druid and the stuff with the Thorn, which is this sort of everything about that is so fascinating because it almost routinely ignores everything about Michael Myers and just dives deep into something else entirely, which is exactly what we need for a sequel that is following. What is it? Is it Revenge of Michael Myers? Is the 5 or 4?
I forget the subtitles of 4 and 5. Yeah, this is him going for Jamie for the second movie. That was part 5.
Right. So we're just repeating history, but how do we make it worthwhile? Oh, well, let's take this piece from Halloween 2 that like literally just got glossed over. It was, oh yeah, this thing. Well, all right, cool. Anyways, murders. And then this time we're like really focusing in. There's conspiracy theory, Paul Rudd. There's all kinds of crazy shit happening. And then, yeah, you get a little bit you get some fun. You get some, spectacular Michael kills in this movie. But then on top of all that, you get to like dive in and like drink deep this like crazy mythology that you had no idea, that is like totally new and grafted, but you're like, God, I hope they stick with this crazy shit. Because then you can go to all new crazy heights. Like that's the level I want from sequels.
Which
is that kind of experiment.
Absolutely did not do. But this is the thing. Because I was telling the first I think Michael kills that nurse maybe 3 to 5 minutes in, right? Again, I don't know how long that is, but in that time, we see people in druid cloaks wheeling her into a candlelit operating room with a fucking 800 candles, right? Kubrick, eat your heart out. You know, Barry Lyndon didn't have druid births, you know? So we're doing this imagery. We got these 9-inch nails flashes. You're like, yes, fuck yeah. This is my problem with the movie, though, right? So imagine that opening. And then I said, we're going to end in a laboratory, a genetics laboratory, I'm assuming, where there maybe are like crackerjack fetuses of Michael Myers, and he gets stabbed with some green goo and his head bashed in, and then he gets like, we'll get to the end. There's a lot happening. I was like, the leap from druid cult magic birth to the most boring version of Michael Myers hunting whites to genetic laboratory. I mean, the fucking spider web of that is a fascinating series of decisions.
Look, we really run the gamut of science fiction in this movie. Like, we're going far beyond any sort of horror.
Yeah.
Like, we're going. We start with pagan ritual and we end with fucking injections in a laboratory. Like,
but this is exactly what I'm saying, though, right? That scene when the druid is marking the newborn with the curse of the thorn, right? And a nurse who somehow is the only evil nurse in cinema history who's not 100% the most committed, right? Usually if you see nurse past the age of 50 working for a horror outfit, they're like, oh, I've committed so many atrocities in my, 30-year career. I'm 100% in, right? It'd be like Damien's nanny at the end of The Omen's like, actually, this kid's kind of a prick. Can I hold your ritual knives for you, Gregory Peck? Right? Like, usually they're so down for the cause. And she has this heart of gold moment and lets him out. And it's really pretty cool, man. And it's the weird Halloween movie where that opening handful of minutes, you're like, yes, this is everything I want. And when Michael appears, you're like, oh, you're just not doing the dress code, huh? You're not doing the robes. You're doing a mechanic suit and the weird mask. It's getting weirder at this point, right? And you are... The weird druids call you out of where to go terminate. Okay, I don't care. It's Halloween. This is a great start. He rips a mullet guy's head off. He goes full Jason Takes Manhattan, is 100% a teleporting ghost. As he travels, however long that truck traveled, he traveled without a raindrop hitting him. Right? He knew where the pull-off was. Jamie doesn't take turns, I guess. Also, if you're driving the truck, point it somewhere that's not Haddonfield. But... yeah, all that said, right? This is one of these movies where you have to take away some of these, wow, these characters are doing not smart things, right? This movie suffers from a lot of these, so you have to brush those out. But Jamie wandering into that bus station and calling for help and her on the run, that's where I thought this movie could have lived. There was something really cool. And again, I hesitate again to say poetic in The Curse of Michael Myers, but... the thought of Jamie now becoming fully a mother and protecting a child when we missed this whole gap of her life, right? She went from hunted child to now mother protecting her baby, who maybe her uncle gave her, and these people are rubbing blood on. There's a lot going on here. And watching her try to have the strength and fortitude to escape, right? Just this ferocious, like the mother's love, right? Nature versus magic. I thought this was going to be really cool. And I knew we were in trouble because there's a scene early on in the bathroom where she's down in the stall. And the other thing about this movie, not to like make a mountain out of the gripes I have at times, but when the baby cries for people who have had kids is fascinating to watch throughout the movie. But neither here nor there. There's a scene when Michael's coming down the stairs, right? He's teleported here. He's not wet. He's got his Robert Smith shadow coming down the stairs. And they show Jamie cowering in a stall with the baby, and Michael's opening stall doors, only to then see the stall's empty, and there was a giant fucking window there that Jamie crawled out of. And that's one of those things this movie suffers, where you're like, why would she ever stop and waste the 1 minute cowering on the toilet when there's a giant window? She's Jamie. She's a survivor. She's been doing this since she was a girl. And that scene was kind of the microcosm of this movie. I was like, I love this setting. I love him coming for her. I love her being a good mom. Oh, we're doing fake scares. We're doing fake tension buildings. They don't trust what they're doing. And I think that's the problem, is that they didn't trust in this druid magic angle.
Right. I mean, I think that's that's really what it is. Like, and it's the ultimate sadness of the movie is not leaning into the weird. And I think that's the thing is like instead like not leaning into it and not making it that weird. Not amping up the weirdness continuously and like still trying to get back to like what I would consider the Halloweenness, like the things that people are expecting. That's the problem, is like we start off by doing something unexpected and then we pretty much go right back to formula, but like they're still trying, because they've already started this druid thing, so now we have to keep like peppering it in and like filtering it through the movie, but we still have to get our scares and our murders every 2 seconds and that kind of thing. And I mean, to me, if you look back at, if you look at the first Halloween movie, like the movie really doesn't kick off hardcore until like almost towards the end, man. Like it's, to me, the great fault of like horror movies, and especially the Halloween particularly, is they rely too much. There's too much reliance on not necessarily what's going to be scary, but what's going to just like make people go, oh, oh my goodness. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Like, what I don't want is to know what's going to happen. And if you throw a druid angle in there, I'm not going to know what's going to happen. Just say it. Just do it. Make me believe. Give me what I didn't ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the divergence between Halloween and Friday the 13th, right? At a point, Friday the 13th made a whole movie where Jason just wasn't in it again. And then he comes back as a zombie, and then he's a nautical ghost, right? The fucking, Jason Nautical Nonsense, number 8 or whatever. Friday the 13th just said, yeah, we know what you're here for. We're just going to go for it, man. And they embrace the weird, right? But this one, you can just see there's kind of all these disparate threads, right? So here's our druid magic. They had that great moment where Jamie's in the barn and Michael's teleporting around and he throws her on the thing. And it's just weird, right? It's stunning. So you're like, she survived him so long.
That scene to me is the microcosm of what's wrong with the movie. Is that, yeah, like she sees him and you're like, cool, got it. And then he's literally just like it's as if there's no time that passes. He shows up behind and you're like, all right, well, thank you. That was what I was expecting. But like, she couldn't have just survived this. Like, she's like you were saying, she's gone this long. Why are we even like, why are we doing this?
And so you start preparing yourselves an audience. Like, how's Jamie going to figure this out? And she just gets killed fast. And Michael's just so brutal and quick in dispatching her. It's almost as if some executive's like, enough of this, gothic ghost story. We got to get back to teenage broads, right? It's like, oh, okay. And this is when it starts just kind of disintegrating at parts, right? So Paul Rudd just is replaying a tape, and then all of a sudden he hears a bus schedule that 1,000% was not there before. And he finds a baby in blood that no one has noticed in this entire, but like no lady went in to pee all day and noticed the baby screaming in the. So it's like we start running into these just moments of why, right? And so they're setting up Tommy as maybe Tommy's like this hacker technology rear window thing. He's gonna like help us solve the druid puzzle with his computer constellations, right? Like maybe he'll figure it out. And then we bring Loomis back, so we have the Loomis. We're kind of reinventing the Laurie Strode Meyer house. We're doing Evil Devil Kid for the 3rd time. There's just all these parts that feel like they're like, one of these things will fucking work. And none of them really like jumps out ahead of any of the others.
Yeah. It really, it feels like it's a movie. It's weird because these movies seem at this point, by what we're on 6, by like movie 6, you'd think this whole thing would be on autopilot, and you'd be like, yeah, we're good. We'll figure this out. And then it's like they started with the druid stuff and the and Thorn, and it's like someone read the script. They're like, wow, this is really good. And then they went out and started shooting it, and they're like, Yikes. Actually, you know what? There's not enough Michael Myers in this movie. Are there any producers who might be able to rewrite this?
Yeah.
Anyone else available?
Can we just have him ghosting around?
It really feels like this weird warlock of a movie. And again, I love all the like 90s affectations. Like to me, the Nine Inch Nails little things that switch the scene over are, yes, they are cheesy because by today's standards, they don't really make a lot of sense. But I mean, for 1995, as far as I'm concerned, that's like borrowed from like Hackers, which I think is awesome. So,
but also, I mean, Halloween 6
those are the
is
kind of like
no
90s.
way trying to pretend that it's some kind of piece of, cinema art. It's just here to do what it needs to do.
Yeah. Again, this movie is 88 minutes long. It was made for $5 million. So
right, but let's start breaking apart some of these disparate elements we've got, right? So we immediately kind of throw out our Druid stuff. We have Paul Rudd monologue on it once or twice, but essentially it has no value. We do talk about there's a constellation that maybe is why Michael comes. So Paul Rudd knows that, but not that the constellation's in the sky right now. Weird, right? He talks about each village gives one sacrificial baby who's supposed to become this kind of like god of death and destruction.
Yeah, it's like one child is supposed to bear the curse.
Yeah, and they say, though, they're like, this child will kill hundreds of thousands. I was like, Michael Myers is the shittiest Thorn. He's the biggest slacker. He's killed like 20 babysitters. Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. Instead of him not following the dress code, maybe he's like not allowed to wear a robe because he's been such a failure. Like, really? You've hunted
so you think
one
Michael
girl
has
the entire
like
fucking time. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, Michael has a druidic middle manager who's like, you didn't hit quotas again, huh? Well, maybe Halloween 10 years from now you'll hit your quotas.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even better, I'd say Michael Myers' outfit is literally he actually is the janitor for the Druids, and they're like, yeah, I guess we'll just let him out. Whatever.
Well, I mean, he just finished cleaning up Halloween 20 years ago. Better set him loose again. But so we take this out, right? So Paul Rudd is a very hard to watch Tommy Doyle in this. Which is, I was telling you, this is the Paul Rudd movie
weird.
Where our wives probably wouldn't want to fuck him. I mean, probably they still would because his perfect 5 o'clock shadow and cheekbones. But he is red flag central, right?
Sure. I mean, to be honest with you, any movie I would still probably fuck Paul Rudd on.
I mean, granted. Let's be gentlemen about this. But they start off with the weird, he just spies on the Strode house, but his camera's always pointed at the room where the mom takes her clothes off way slower than any human being does. And then he also, I'll tell you what is funny about this movie. I think the scariest scene in the movie is when Tommy Doyle, you're like, is he the one who's going to find the baby? Because you're just like, ooh, creepy. Like when he's walking, he's like, did a bus get here last night? Excellent. And he's sitting in the bloody phone booth. You're like, I kind of hope that kid just got like flushed. Like I think it's in worse hands with Tommy than like being left anywhere else in the terminal. But there's a cool scene, right, when he gets the baby home, and he's like, don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you. And he smiles. And I was like, oh, my God, he's stoked to have this fucking murder beacon. Walk me through your thoughts on Paul Rudd in this movie. It is a weird character, Tommy Doyle, in this film.
I mean, Tommy Doyle in this movie seems like he's... Paul Rudd plays, I don't know, like half the time I was like, is this just a PTSD thing? Like, are we just covering, this kid's been through a lot. And he's now a recluse and that kind of thing. But then he's not because he fucking goes out and does a bunch of shit. Right, exactly. So I'm like, he's not really a recluse. He's more just a big fucking pervert. And that's like the long and short of the story. But to me, Paul Rudd's characterization is so like, he's just so, it's just on the nose for me. Like, here's my thing. There's the Donald Pleasances of the world. There's the Dr. Loomises who we all know what to expect from Dr. Loomis. Not just because of the first movie, but like, this is a guy who spent his entire life studying Michael Myers and so on and so forth. Like, the logic is there. Paul Rudd has literally just been like surfing the internet since the internet got created, trying to find whatever he could on Michael Myers.
Well, that's the difference, though, right? Is that Loomis had a whole life and career and found Michael much older.
Yeah.
Tommy Doyle is the boy we see in the first movie who is already afraid of the boogeyman and bullied. This happening, you can kind of see. The weird part is just how they never quite bring it home, right? He's almost too serial killer-y for me, because I like the scene that I thought was really a good wink and nod with Tommy, right? Is when he walks outside and Danny, our new creepy kid, he makes Danny drop his pumpkin. Very much like the bullies made him drop his pumpkin in the first one.
Oh, yeah.
And when he ducks down to eye level and he's like, I'm sorry. And then you see them form this kind of quirky bond. You're like, oh, okay, here's a nice, like now he's an actual human being, right? Now there's shades of a person. Next thing you know, he's in the kid's room and the mom comes in like, hey, guy who takes fucking toplesses of me, what are you doing in here? And he's like, don't worry, I'm a friend. And it's like, no, it's like, the way it's played often is rough, right? And then at the end, he kind of just leaps into this action hero-y thing. I don't know. My thing is in the face of druidic magic, I felt like there was some other way we could have played this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me in a way that it should. Because like I like conspiracy theory characters in movies. Like those are the characters that I find the most enjoyable to watch. Like it's weird to me that it just doesn't work, and I think it doesn't work because it's so. I agree. I think it's because he's too obsessed with Michael Myers. Like this is the weird thing is. Well, knowing the boogeyman,
I get
like,
that he
would
just
be
right.
You've seen him.
I get that he would be obsessed, but this movie is supposedly taking place 10 years after the last movie, right? And so that's fine. You can be obsessed.
I guess
but
he would
what?
Be I don't know.
Okay, so if you were a kid, right? Let's just put it. If you were a kid and you're an avid Batman super fanatic, right? If you were a child and you were, like, well, I'm in my, Batman onesie. And I'm over here carving pumpkins and yelling at the neighbor girl. And next thing you know, you saw Killer Croc eat your babysitter. And then your mom's like, Killer Croc ate 6 babysitters. You'd be like, oh, fuck. You would probably be really obsessed with the Killer Croc.
Or live in... I think this is the thing is, after everything that happens to Tommy Doyle in the first one, like the things that occur in his life, I don't know if I buy that he's obsessed. Like to me, I would be living in mortal fear.
But I think
that's
fear,
like my
fear
thing that
is
I think
obsession.
I kept coming back to.
Fear is obsession with a different title.
Sure, but I don't think for me personally, this version of like there's a version of this movie where Tommy Doyle is this like fear obsessed person. Like that's how he faces his fear in a way. And I think like there's a version of this movie where maybe Tommy Doyle's characterization is a little more like the successor to Dr. Loomis. Like that would make more sense to me, like than the way it is now. Because right now he's just an obsessive. Like to me, yeah, I believe that I agree with you. Like fear is another form of obsession in a way. I think though that for it to be like the first scene is the thing that throws me off the most. Like when he calls into that like, knockoff K-Rock back talk 107.7 or whatever it is. Like he gives that, and was he doing an accent? I couldn't tell. Like I was like, we're in Illinois.
I think he did that twice because he also did it at the doctor's when he was screaming at the nurse. I'm like, is he doing like South African? Like what? Like he had a little something going on extra.
It was. There's a little bit. You're saying there's a little bit of Invictus in there. Yeah,
right. You know what I mean. But let me run Tommy Doyle through this like kind of 2-part exchange, which I find very strange. The Tommy Doyle, not Tommy Jarvis, Tommy Doyle, who is simply obsessed with this house, right? I must stand guard on this house. It also feels like that boarding house, also probably pretty close to where he grew up and all this happened, right? I get that. He wants to stand watch, a sentinel over this house. The version of that where he just stands in the window and stares at this single mom who's been through an abusive life and doesn't ever be like, hey, you live in Michael Myers' bedroom. Nothing like that. He just watches and takes, that's not a telescope. That's a camera. That's a fucking camera. So for sure, his hard drive has more than Druidic rune games. You know what I mean? So that version of Tommy Doyle is hard to square with Man of Action Tommy Doyle, right? Because there's a couple moments that I really like. At the end of the movie, when he finally, he kind of just wanders through the, the least heavily guarded Druidic fortress of all time, and he gets, the girl, and they're running away. At the end, when he finally is face-to-face with
Druids,
Michael.
they're not,
Yeah, they're like, yeah, it's magic. Michael's indestructible. It's magic. We're also geneticists, because that's something we're just going to say as offhand dialogue. When he gets to confront Michael, right, and he does the, fake baby for the second time in the movie, he starts laughing, right? When he's face-to-face with Michael, he starts laughing. And that laugh mixed with,
which I like.
I love that moment, but that's what I mean. That laugh mixed with him smiling as he finds the baby for real. There is a moth to flame element of Tommy where he desperately, I think what they're playing really well at is this kind of survivor's guilt almost. This PTSD where I think he wishes he could have been a victim. Maybe it would have been easier than living with what he saw. Because we see a couple times when he's confronted with the horrors of what Michael's done, even at this stage, he is shook. So I think I'm not, Paul Rudd didn't play it wrong, right? I think the movie just uses him slightly wrong. Take out the I jerk off to my poor neighbor lady elements, and I can actually talk to a human being. Because that's the thing. If you're lacking that little bit of he has some hope, right? Like he wants to be better. The scene with the kid is a great example of that.
Sure.
But it comes off as two serial killers meeting and being like, oh, thank God there's another one. Right? So it just feels a little off. So let's switch to that. Thoughts on the evil kid?
I mean, again, this whole movie seems to be about, for me, was about succession. Like, it's like they were trying to reboot the franchise into another thing altogether. Yeah. So, like, in another world, Paul Rudd carries on the mantle of Loomis, and this kid ends up being fucking the next Michael Myers. Like, instead of Halloween H2O, it becomes Halloween, like, Danny's Revenge or whatever, Like, there's...
The Curse of Voice Man.
There's, I mean... But like that's the level that I felt like it comes. I mean, I'm fine with creepy kids. Creepy kids are fun. Like I don't know if there was anything. Again, like I think it was so wrapped up in just like trying to figure out why we weren't focusing on the Curse of Thorn and all this other stuff that like was actually engaging to me in the very beginning of the movie. I was like, okay, got it. There's an evil kid. He's got the curse. Great. Like,
yeah.
But why is the janitor still chasing after everyone? Why is he still allowed to run around?
That's the weird part is because, and this just feels like that weird, like they sent someone with here's the last 6 movies. Take every little string because it's, so a new Strode family that's related to the people that adopted Laurie live in the house where Laurie's brother murdered the sister. And the Strode connection now the Strode child is marked for Druidic thorning because he's drawing dope trope alert. Kid in a horror movie doing murder drawings, and he drew the thorn, and the voice man's hat is all over his house, and he is seeing the voice. So is Michael supposed to be replaced by him? He was supposed to be replaced by Jamie. They mentioned this new baby will be Rise of a New Era. Is the new baby the fucking next? Like, I just have questions, right? Like, here's a Druidic question that struck. I had a bunch of Druid questions. Because I really essentially wanted this movie to be all Druids, right? I think Loomis says at one point, I know where it is. I know how he wants this game to be played. And I was like, I know how I want this game to be played too. Go back to the creepy candle cave and just do an Alice in Wonderland of Michael Myers and Druid shit. Like, that's great, right? Because here's a question, right? They still never, ever, 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 ever come close to why Haddonfield? Why Haddonfield? And if Haddonfield, who was the Thorn
I
before Michael Myers?
A huge thing.
Well, right. Well, I was like, was there an Ellis Island Thorn?
I think that's
was there we made it to Pennsylvania and stopped Thorn? Like, what? I mean, there's so much cool shit to talk about there.
It's interesting you bring that up because the whole time when I was watching it, again, like the first time I saw this movie, I can tell you I was probably 7 years old, and it was because it was attached to a VHS that I had rented. So I watched a trailer for this movie, and then I ended up watching this movie. And on this viewing, it's the first time I've ever thought to myself, I'm like, is Haddonfield like a hellmouth? Is that why we're always in Haddonfield? Is that like that's got to be it, right? Like, and while we were watching this for I think I've now watched. This is like the fourth time I've watched this in my entire life, and this time I was like, maybe I missed the part where they finally tell us that Haddonfield is like the mouth to hell, and like I'll finally get some like actual like nope, never explained.
Well, they also, because they do,
I think would have been and you bring up a good point, would have been really cool.
Right. Well, they do a druidic cult headed by an old white guy that is exactly the same kind of thing they did in Halloween 3, back when they thought this would be an anthology. Yes. Also, making magical mask out of a little Stonehenge. Like, it feels like when Tommy had the screen up with all the different druid stuff, and when they had the babies in the 1990s pools of Gak, right? The little embryos are like, me, and they should have all had the little Shatner mask on. That would have been hilarious. But they had like druidic medical labels. So I was like, oh, fuck, is this one druid cult that is hey, we're going to go slasher it up? And then there's a druid cult like, hey, we're the face melters. This is our jam. We used to make fezzes that melted faces. Now it's like, are there all these different cults? How many thorns are there? Is there one thorn and one rose and one root? Like, there's so many cool things we could have gotten into. And again, even why Haddonfield doesn't enormously matter. But the fact of how this druidic cult came to be here, right? Because they also get the sense that it's linked to this sanitarium, which maybe that's why. But then Michael didn't go there until after he heard the voice man. So, you know what I mean? It's just like, why did the voice man pick 10-year-old kids instead of picking like giant steroid guys? Like, I know. Like, good thing he always picks a 10-year-old who ends up being 6'5" and super powerful. This is what I mean. Did I need to see him slasher the Strode teenagers who fucked and the Strode family that had a bad marriage and the DJ? You're like, I did need to see the DJ get murdered, even though it has nothing to do with Michael's mission. Yes. I did enjoy seeing that Strode dad get murdered because he slapped the girl. So I was like, yeah, he deserves to die.
Yes.
I'll tell you the saddest death, too, while we're on it, right? There's two deaths in this family that are baffling to me. When he kills the mom, I was so mad because she finally got her courage to walk away from her shitty husband. I want to save the family. She called him out for bringing them this house. When she sees Michael and she runs, they do this like montage of shots of her little tiny running shoes moving like 4 inches at a time. And it's so tragic. Because I was like, that's like the hamster on the wheel. Those little mom Reeboks are not getting out of there. She's like getting knocked down by sheets in the wind. And when that lovely woman who finally found her power is reduced to so much, fucking money, red money shot on a white sheet. Oh. But that led me to an interesting thought, though. One, I was like, how did Michael get the blood off those leaves? He was doing some raking. And two, I was like, he cleaned the fucking sheets. No, he didn't. He put them in the washer machine. And when he pulled the fuse so there was no power, he had to use druid magic to still run the spin cycle. So Michael Myers is in the corner. Now that's a fucking detergent commercial.
I was actually thinking about that scene and was thinking, so Michael Myers is like the Hagrid of this whole thing. Like, he's like the one who's not supposed to do magic, but he has a little bit of magic, so he's allowed to do a little bit. Like, that's Again, like it's like, but like it's limited to like, oh, I can do laundry without the power. On
I can do the dead body and the laundry
like,
trick.
Nothing cool.
But yeah, I mean, Michael's kills are cool. Michael's fine in the movie. I think there's bigger issues, but that's, I mean, well, Michael killing that dad was great, and that dad was amazing in the movie. He's probably my favorite character in the movie because it's just such a great portrayal. Like, you so believe that guy is the piece of shit he's playing. It's amazing. But, like, I don't know that I needed any of that. And then they add this extra, oh, we're going to bring Halloween back to Haddonfield. We don't believe. So I've always loved in this series when they kind of give Haddonfield traits. So this is Haddonfield, like, we're coming out of the nightmare, but they don't do anything with it, right? So for me, it's like, wouldn't it have been more fun to spend time with, like, maybe Jamie and Tommy connect and we see the two sides of kids who have had to deal with Michael coming together to save this baby. I don't know. It's not what we do. We don't try to rewrite the movie as we would have done. We talk about what we saw. Alex, talk to me about the best part of the movie, Dr. Loomis.
Oh, God. I mean, this version of Loomis, this, like, man in the cabin,
34th Street Santa,
spotlighted by Rachel McAdams.
What did you just... What?
No.
Pod over. If you finish hurling that accusation at Loomis, the pod's over. We won't finish the Abyss of October. I'll not fucking let Loomis's name...
Well, what's happened is he was a dick co-worker in the 70s, and finally everyone's like, he's a total dick.
He had rough edges. He was a sword who hadn't found...
Everyone's like, he
was hard steel, hard intellectual steel that had not met the other steel that could sharpen him until Michael.
He's been a real fucking shit this entire time, and then what you find out is he ended up getting spotlighted by Mark Ruffalo and Rachel McAdams. They come down.
No.
They come down. They Boston accent him out to a cabin out in Haddonfield, living his best life.
You fuck.
Where he's been just repurposed.
Well, fucking Haddonfield your ass. This is what happened. Dr. Loomis saved countless people by running around and screaming. He actually didn't even kill the guy who got hit by the ambulance.
No,
he just
was
going to shoot. He saved a bunch of people because they're like, this guy's crazy. We got to do something. So he did save people. Then he ran around as a burnt-ass Ahab when he survived the hospital fire. He just kept fighting. He kept getting stabbed and fighting. And we see him. He's essentially Fraser Crane now, right? He just is surrounded by leather-bound dish. He's got a nice sweater, talking to the radio. He's Fraser Crane. He's having buddies over for a sherry. It's probably a scotch, but whatever. You get the point. He's Fraser Crane now. He's living a good life until he's brought back in when he hears Jamie's voice. He knows that his battle, and it's actually kind of a tragic moment, is Dr. Loomis and probably Donald Pleasance himself getting rolled out again when he thinks his fight is over, right, against this monster.
Yeah, it's definitely got like a Godfather Part 3 vibe.
Right, and the scene but he's so good in it. He uses whatever was ailing him at the time, right, his state. He uses it super well. And again, when you said earlier it's a great send-off for him, I couldn't help but think about when Sid Haig passed away, and he had one or two brief moments in 3 from Hell, but he's so gaunt. You could tell he was really not doing well. And I was like, man, like, you want these horror icons to get that really good send-off, and it doesn't happen a lot. And I would say Donald Pleasance is so fitting, right, of this Ahab-like warrior, this Van Helsing. And when he's talking to that old lady, he just shows up in her... By the way, classic Loomis, right? Even when he's a sweet old, gift giver, as he has become in this movie, the Fraser Crane of psychiatrists, he still has no decorum. Because that lady's walking around her house just being afraid, and he just is in her home. He doesn't ring the doorbell. He's just in her home. I have a terrible secret to tell you. And he proceeds to tell her, right, about Michael had it in him, this darkness, it infected him. Blah. And he does a great little Loomis monologue. And what I love, and this is great acting, as he's hitting the crescendo, right, what was in Michael, and he brings it all the fucking way down, was pure evil. He says it in almost like a ghostly whisper. He can no longer scream it to the heavens, right? Because he knows his fight with Michael is essentially at the end, right? He's tired of telling people that this guy's evil, and them not understanding, man. And in a way, it actually works because she's probably the first person that 100% buys it from him.
Right.
Oh, it's a beautiful moment.
I mean,
man.
I think that's the thing I like the most but I do like that you bring it up. I like that it's like his last, he's not wringing his hands like he was.
Yeah.
Like, it's no longer this, like, hand wringing, like, damn you! Like, it's not this, like, Charlton Heston at the end of Planet of the Apes thing.
Yeah.
It's much more like, I'm done chasing this. Like, I'm done trying to convince other people to chase this. I'll do it myself, which is why, like, again, it's the thing I love about this movie it's the thing I love the most is that it is a great send-off for Donald Pleasance as this character. It's the end of a saga, and it's the end of the Loomis saga itself. Is that he's gonna take care of this.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like the fortitude, and I like that he's old, he's decrepit, he's living out in the middle of nowhere, sort of, but he's not so far off the grid that he's not going to totally come back for it.
He comes back, man. He knows he doesn't have it, and I love that because the scene I love is when he confronts his friend Wen. He just is like, God damn it. You know, again, he's like, they wake up from being drugged. It's like, I know where we're going. He goes to the sanitarium, the place that he spent his career, right? And this festering druidic pool has been right beneath his feet, right? This cellar of crazies, just like the missing file that said Michael's related to Laurie, right? It kind of adds some more of that, like, oh, there's druidic tampering. Okay, I get it. Maybe that's why he was parking in the handicapped spot. He knew they were druidic dickholes the whole time. But it becomes fast because when he goes into that guy's office, he doesn't go in guns blazing. He just says, why? Because this man knows that he is not going to always be here, and that when he's gone, evil, whether it's Michael or something else, will still be here. And others will fight it, right? He realizes almost, I don't want to say the uselessness of his fight, but that you can never all the way defeat evil and push the darkness back. And so what he really wants is to know why he was so derailed and taken from and put upon by this guy, right? And again, the movie, The Curse of Michael Myers, is never answering questions that they ask. So we never fucking know. But the ending scene with Loomis, when, you know, they're all in the van, right? Like, we got to go, you know, 3 people and the baby, right? Like, we're going to go off and drive into the sequel. They're definitely going to green light for us. Let's go. And he's just like, no, I need to stay here. I've got things to take care of. And we never see what those things are. Yes. We don't know what it is. Maybe we kind of do. We'll get to the very last image soon enough. But that send-off of him not getting in the car, he knows his race is run. I thought it was just beautiful. And it's a powerful moment, man. He's just like, I'll stand here. I'm not afraid to be by Michael in this place. I thought it was awesome.
It's a powerful moment in a movie that kind of loses its way a lot, but Loomis is kind of this guiding light for us because we do like forget a lot. Like we were saying earlier, like we drop a lot of the Druid stuff and it sort of becomes background noise. So what you have to do is find something else to clamp onto, and that's Loomis.
Yes.
Loomis's story ends up being the thing that kind of takes me through. Like, I don't give a shit about Tommy, and obviously I care about Jamie and a kid, but like at the same time, like Loomis, I want to see like Loomis has to take you through that whole thing. You have to go through the gauntlet with Loomis to get to the end of this movie.
Yeah, and for a movie like you said that stumbles at times, they landed the most important thing this movie needed to do, which is do justice to what Donald Pleasance built with Loomis. Loomis is my favorite non-monster in a horror movie ever. He's my favorite non-monster character, right? I still think Freddy Krueger is the best kind of villain in a horror movie, and Loomis is my favorite non-villain, man. And they did him a lot of justice, right? And so I appreciate the movie for that alone. The ending is, again, a series of just fascinating decision-making. Okay, let's start with... We'll kind of skip the part with the crazy lady with the bad teeth and the unsecured doors everywhere. There is a bit that I found kind of fascinating.
Worst Druid lair ever.
It's not good. It's not even a good Druid lair. It's just a sanitarium, right? But what I like is Michael seems to be walking around hapless, like, well, what do I do now? I'm about to be replaced by an army of genetic me's. And he looks over and see Paul Rudd, and they share a look, and he's like, I guess we're doing this, right? And he slowly saunters over, right? And they run away, and Michael pursues because that's what Michael does.
Right.
There is this moment, right? Because this is when we get into the, I've never seen genetics on this scale. They're letting us know that Druid genetics is now kicking in. There's a scene when Michael 100% walks past the two of them when he would know exactly where the fuck they were. And he walks to a table and he grabs this giant knife. And he keeps walking, right? He looks like the silhouette of Robert Smith from the famous Cure album, right? And you're like, okay, he's coming back to kill Tommy and the girl, right? What he does is he walks into the room with his druidic handlers. Not Wynn, though. We never see the demise of Wynn, which is very strange. But I presume he was in that room, right? Or they were going to leave him for a sequel. He walks into the room of his druidic handlers that are doing something horrific. Instead of going in the room with his own baby and little serial killer to be, Danny, he walks in the room and starts slaughtering the druids and the doctors. Why?
Yes.
Do you have a good reason? Why? That's an interesting choice, I thought. Why would he run into that room instead of pursuing the very Michael Myers path he's been on the whole rest of the movie?
I mean, I don't know if there's any logic to it, to be honest with you. For me, it's when I saw it, I was mainly just a body count thing. Like, if I'm being completely honest, like
I actually
could not
thought
surmise why that. And like
this is Mandarin Iron Man, though,
you,
dude. This is magic versus technology. The magic in him doesn't want to let go or be controlled.
Well, and that was like I was gonna say, like the only thing I could probably surmise, like from a storytelling standpoint, is like, is it, or it's like Blade 2 when he blows away all like the little Daywalker fetuses.
Yeah,
like. You're the only one.
Well, at the end, Michael didn't go after the
honestly,
fetuses.
like, that was the only
Michael's in the green room, and he's pretty chill with his own little mini-hims.
Right. Sorry, not the fetuses, but, like, is he, like, getting back at all the people who, like, tried to make him a multiple?
Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest with you. Like, it's such a weird... Because I agree. Like, it's one of those moments where I'm like, why? Like, what is happening here? Like... Again, it's a body count, and like it's a horror movie.
Yes.
It's a slasher flick, like that's part of the deal. But again, like it does feel like kind of unmotivated and weird because, yeah, you're just sort of shrugging the whole time. Like I don't know why this.
But it's always classically fun to see handlers of this great force, right? So Michael Myers has become this great weapon they wielded on this small town and many people over the long course of this series, right? So to see them. We're so smart. We're the voice man. We're geneticists. We're druids, right? We're painting babies. We're lighting 1,000 candles a day because we got time for that. We got an infrastructure, right? You know, someone's sewing our cloaks. We do that. So to see them be so cavalier that they don't even lock their prison, they just let Michael saunter about, right? Even after he's activated, like, we got this under control. We got what we want from him, and now we're going to take control of the magic. And the magic fighting back was really fun to me. I thought that was a cool moment.
Yeah, I mean,
dug it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the best way to put it, and that's the best way to enjoy it. Again, like it's one of those things where I just sort of sat there and was like, cool, great. Like we're like this is how this movie probably ends in general.
Yeah.
Like again, there's a world where we could have leaned into something else, but again, I'm not expecting. We talk a lot about this, and especially with horror sequels, I think, which is like, what did you expect?
Yeah.
Like whatever you're expecting, whatever you thought was supposed to happen, like don't think it's going to be like, oh, well, what they're going to do is stop down. Michael Myers is going to take off his mask, and he's just going to like pull out a pocket Proust and just like read. Like that's not this movie. Like
he's just gonna be like, I'm gonna read "Thus Zarathustra spoke" or whatever. He's like, I gotta get deep. I gotta understand what I am. Am I me? But that's cool though, because after he kills that guy, right, or Zarathustra, I don't even know what the fuck I just said. But he starts walking down that red hallway, right, where they're trying to like run, and there's a doctor like, help me, help me. Michael actually does the power walk, like the mom power walk. he speeds up a little bit. Maybe he's a little more human. He's a little unleashed.
First time I've ever seen him.
Yeah,
do
he's
that.
like, and we know he can teleport between raindrops, and he's just like, I gotta really get to this guy. And then you have this other moment that's paired with it when Michael's fucking choking the Strode lady out, and Danny, the kid who's holding a baby, is like, stop it. And when Michael comes for her and can't figure out the, circle peg and the square hole, to like climb in there, he's just like, ramming his shoulder into the wall. Danny starts screaming. Danny now has emotion. So has Michael pulled back whatever bit of magic was being transferred? So I was like, there was some cool stuff. I don't know. Was that reanimator fluid he got stabbed with?
Well, by that rationale, are we saying that Michael Myers is almost the hero by taking the curse in on himself?
No.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
just as Dracula's not the hero
now,
for bringing in more blood into his body. He's like, well, you get to live forever, too.
I was going to say, just so you know, if that's the point you were about to make, I was going to tell you were dead fucking wrong. But,
okay. Loomis got spotlighted, take guy. Yeah, Tommy Doyle smashing his face open and his face is full of green blood. I was like, sure. All right, genetic stuff. Cool. Mm-hmm. His hands are full of red scars, but, cool. Green blood. I was like, it's fine. The weird ending to me is when we cut back and Michael has clearly stood up after having his face smashed, which, of course he will. He's Michael Myers. Why is the mask on the floor, and who is that screaming like a crazy person? I don't think that's Donald Pleasance getting killed. I think that is Michael Unchained, right? Because another question they don't answer, which I feel like this movie was responsible for, why that mask and those overalls, right? So when he kills his handlers and he becomes more fully powered, maybe he doesn't need it, right? He peels off the mask and the suit. Maybe it's just Michael running around buck wild, buck naked, and just screaming, right? The barbaric yelp. He's a human again. Is that what you took?
I mean, I read online what it was meant to be, at least that it was supposed to be Loomis.
I hate that ending
because that was
unless it's Loomis just fucking tapping Michael Myers to strikes. So Loomis just gets him in the old Nolan Ryan headlock and is punching the shit out of Michael Myers.
I assumed it was Loomis to begin with, just because like that again, it's like the final straw. It's the last thing you need to know is that Loomis went out swinging.
See,
he clearly went out, but he definitely went out swinging.
I don't like that for his heroic journey. I'm glad they left it ambiguous. I like to believe that that's Michael who takes the mask off and is howling at the moon. You know what I mean? Unleash this new, more powerful evil magic. He's his own handler for the first time.
I despise that.
In the whole time we've known Michael Myers, right? Since he stabbed his sister after she had the world's shortest intercourse, he's never been his own monster. Now he is.
I like how you basically are just turning Michael Myers into the genie from Aladdin.
Yeah, except for instead of going to Disneyland, he's going to go murder naked. Same thing.
Well, we're assuming Genie Illinois, of all places, still.
Maybe he's
unclear.
Like, you know what? I heard Ohio has towns. I'll walk over there. He's like, I'm free. Haddonfield was his lamp.
I think the fact that we never. I think the fact that we never got a movie of Michael Myers walking through and murdering Vegas is a real shame.
I mean, once they did Jason Takes Manhattan, I think we saw the guy walking through crap. I mean,
exactly.
To be fair, is it not Leprechaun 2 or 3 that is in Vegas? He kills a magician, and Leprechaun is just
it doesn't
perfect.
matter.
I mean, Halloween's not on Leprechaun's level.
Jason Takes Manhattan. Listen, Jason Takes Manhattan. Freddy kills New Haven. Tell me that never actually happened. But tell me, for the love of God, why we couldn't have gotten Michael Myers stabbing his way through Las Vegas. I beg you.
We were probably about to get Michael Myers as like a subway flasher murderer had they greenlit the sequel to this. Now that he's unchained and unmasked. But yeah. That is a weird thing the Halloween series is obsessed with, is removing Michael's mask. I feel like so many Halloween movies play with this, what would it be like if he took his mask off? And you're like, 0% different? 0? A lot of them, it'd probably be an improvement. But yeah, to wrap this up, guys.
Yeah, I'm not sure it really matters.
Yeah, I think they're doing the thinly veiled. Again, it's Stephen King talks about it in Dance Macabre, right? It's one of our archetype monsters in the tarot hand is the werewolf, right? The hidden beast inside. And we want to see the, Dr. Jekyll, under the mask. We want to see a more human killer version. But yeah, neither here nor there. I think this movie, man, they were really close. If they had really steered into the cult and the druidic magic and Jamie and used that as the lever, I would love to see how weird this could have gotten and how much that would have added to Michael Myers. Because at this point in the series, Michael had been lost, right? By Halloween 4 and 5, they're just essentially becoming paler Friday the 13th knockoffs, right? This one really added a new flavor and text that would have been fascinating, and it just feels like they were too scared to not have the, body count in a small town. But they gave Loomis an amazing send-off, so to me, it's a mixed bag. But, I think there's plenty here to enjoy if you want to.
Indeed.
All right, guys, that's it for Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. I don't know, spend all your years like me just imagining weird druid hypotheticals. That in and of itself is worth the thought experiment. All right, guys, we will be back tomorrow with Halloween H2O. This is essentially we throw out all the movies we just talked about. We go back to we get a come back to Laurie. This is when Laurie really becomes the final girl we all know her as now. Fascinating movie in and of its own right. So that's it. Every day this month we'll be dropping a new horror movie. A lot of special guests coming in. Find the ones we've already done. Be ready for the ones we haven't. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you find the podcast, especially Apple Podcast app. Give a 5-star, quick 1 or 2. Why you love us so much. You can see our faces and some other stuff we're working on our YouTube channel, The Nerd Alchemist. You can also email the show, FilmAlchemistPod, and find us on every social media app that you're on as a way to get a hold of us and tell us what kind of stuff you want to hear about, man. For the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex Dandino.